Thank you for the foundation. This is really the honor for me to come to Brazil and have this possibility to talk about Finnish education. Of course, the 40 minutes is very short time, but still I think that I can deliver some ideas of what we have done in Finland, why we are in this level where we are now in education sector. Title of my presentation is Teacher Education is a Key Element for Successful Educational System. And it's also the argument. And I'm going to explain what it means and prove it, that it really like that. First, I like to start from the history. Not very far from, not from the Greece or antique, but some main ideas what we have done in the past and what level of education we have had in Finland in 19th. In the first half, does it? No? Okay, I thought that I will have the animation in that one, but maybe it's not. In the beginning of the 90s, even up to the 1950s, Finland was the one of the poorest country in Europe. And after the Second World War, we have to pay for the Russia because we failed during the Second World War for them. We have challenges, as he mentioned. The Finland is small country as such. We have something like 5.5 million citizens. But thinking about the geographic area of Finland, it's quite big, and it means that we have also the remote areas, especially in the northern part of Finland. We call it Lapland. By the way, the Santa Claus is coming from the Lapland. He lives there.
Is it really coming from?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then in the southwest, we are having the archipelago, where we have something like 20,000 islands. It means that our citizens are scattered all over the Finland. And then we have, because of that reason, we also have long distances, because the most popular area in Finland is surround the capital Helsinki, which is situated in the southern part of Finland. It means how it affects the education and education systems. It's not very famous to get the teacher position from the northeast part of Finland. Of course, the Santa Claus is living there, but still it's hard to live there, because 3 months during the Finnish wintertime, it's meaning from November to end of the January, we have very dark months. We can't see even the sun. And it's cold place, and it's also remote area. But still we are having the teachers there. And in the middle I have put the box. In international comparison studies in the 1970s and 1980s, the Finnish students' achievement in basic educational skills, reading, math, sciences, reading, writing also, was about average or even below within OECD countries. Because now, as you know, that we are in quite high level in those rankings. But we haven't been there always. Yes, but that was the situation in the past, something like 50 years ago. And we recognized that, and we thought that we need to do something. And the first step, what we did in the end of the 1960s and beginning of the 1970s, we separated the politics from the education as such. Of course, we need the decision makers and the politics because they are important because they are running the whole country. But still the idea is that the politics are supporting the education, and the education specialist experts are the ones who are making the decisions. And the politics are asking the helps and expertise from the educational expert for the decision making. And what happened in the beginning of the 1970s, we had a big educational reforms. The main philosophical idea was that we will promote the strong emphasis on educational equity. And what we did in the system level, we established the 9-year joint comprehensive school for all students. Before that, we haven't. But then we started to implement it in 1970s in whole Finland, but not at the same time. We started from the north, from the Lapland, and we proceed phases, step by step, towards the south. And also what we decided, we started the new university-based teacher education really at the universities. Even before that, we had the teacher training, but the teacher training were in certificate level in some teacher training centers, not at the universities. And the first master degree teacher program started to 1979 at the universities. But what happened? How this big change or reforms influenced the whole Finnish society? Because if you are doing something in education, it affects the whole society. Maybe the first and more visible change happened in the achievement in the international comparison studies, like PISA, TIMSS, and so on, where they measure those basic educational skills. As you can see in the picture, I hope that it works. When we did that reform, 1970, in the middle of the 1970, started to change. The rankings were better. They changed all the time in positive way, comparing to the OECD average. But what else? The gross domestic product per capita Finland also rised up. And you can see it from this figure that it's really effect that in positive way. There is some lines where you can see the gross domestic products per capita in Sweden, because Sweden is our neighbor country. And then the Western Europe average is there in the middle. And you can see in the 1960s, the Finland was low behind, and then it rised up, and it seems to be also so that it's rising up all the time. That is, I can tell you that you can read it from here, that when you are putting the money in the education, you provide the good quality basic education that all students can read, write, and do mathematics. It promotes the good future for the whole society, because you can't educate the students who can't read, write, and do mathematics. And then the next slide is where I have put some extra information for that figure, that diagram, where you can see more clearly that the level of the gross domestic products per capita rised up very straight just after the comprehensive school and teacher education reform. And it still continues. But because we are now in the area, and my background is also in teacher education, I have trained all kind of teachers past 20 years at the universities. Teachers from early childhood education up to the adult education. We can say, based on the research, that large studies in many countries has shown that just increasing the number of teacher certificates, it meaning that if we are training more teachers, is not necessarily an impact on teaching quality and student learning. It doesn't rise up the quality of education if you just train teachers. It's the quality of teacher education which matters. It meaning that it's important to know what you are teaching for the teacher students, how you are educating them. The high quality teacher education really makes a difference, and this is the evidence for that one. As I told you before, we started 1979, the new teacher education at the universities. It meant that all teachers in Finland should have at least master degree in education in all levels. And this big, this big circle here, you can see that the change is bigger than before, And what effect that change? It affect that new teacher education at the universities. Because in the beginning of the 1990s, those teachers who started to do that master degree in education went to the school, went to the work to teach students. And then it affect those international comparison studies about the basic educational skills. As I shortly mentioned before, also before the 1970s, before this big teacher education reform, we had qualified teachers, but they were trained at the institutions, not at the universities. They had a certificate in education, not the master degree in education. And in Finland, we are very lucky because the most of the teachers who are practicing in the schools, they are qualified teachers. In some areas, we still have unqualified teachers. It's not very big amount of them, but some of them are. And those areas are near to Helsinki, our capital, where we have the big schools, a lot of students, and then we are lacking the qualified teachers. And then, what it means, how to define the quality teacher education. I have here 5 principles, key principles, how we can define the quality teacher education. I go through all of those 5 principles one by one and explain what I mean. These key principles come from the research findings. They are evidence-based. It meaning that all those research have not done only in Finland, because, for example, those methods and practices, what we are using in education in Finland, we haven't created and developed them by our own. We have followed what has happened in the world, and we still are following, reading the research and also doing the research in Finland. And then we are adopting. We are not copying, but we are adopting the best practices. Because copying is not the right way to do it. As we said in the beginning, that Finland and Brazilians are quite different contexts and different countries. It's meaning that how we are doing the education in Finland, we can't be sure that it works the same way in Brazil. That's meaning that you need to adopt it. And of course the Finns can help, because we can explain how we are doing, but you are the ones who has the content knowledge. You have the knowledge about the content the context. The Brazil, you are the expert of Brazilian context. You know how to adopt those things. What works as such in Brazil? Okay, and then the first one. And I think that this is the most important one. Adaptive expertise. The idea of teacher education is to prepare those teacher students to be the change agent. They are the ones who are changing the world. And when we are training the teacher-student, for example, currently when I'm having the courses for those teacher-students, I don't know exactly for what kind of world I training them. That's why I'm saying it's more important to give for them and train for them the skills that they can find, select, analyze, and use the information what we are having, not just giving the knowledge for them, because the world is full of knowledge and information, many kind of knowledge, visual, auditive, mainly. And the biggest challenge is how to use that info, select and use that information. And also I like to rise up that word what I have put there, collaborative development. Teachers are working in the schools, and they are having the workmates. They are not alone. And even surround the schools, there is a community. And for example, the one biggest issue in Finnish basic education curricula is that school and the teachers have to cooperate with the parents. And parents, together with the teachers, are the ones who are supporting and teaching and learning of the students. The next one, the second one, is the focus on pedagogical knowledge and scientific evidence. We call it research evidence-based practices. Those methods, what the teachers are using in the classrooms when they are implementing, they are having the research-based evidence. They really know what works. It's wrong word somehow. It's not so easy, but the teachers, during the teacher studies, they are collecting for them the packets, the tool packets, where they have the different kind of methods what they can use when they are teaching. But the teachers are the ones, when they go to school, they really need to know what kind of methods is usable for that kind of situation or that kind of teaching. In the teacher training, we can't say that when you have a child with the learning difficulties in math, that use this book or use this method. You can reach the goal by using the different kind of methods. And it's the expertise and professionality of the teacher to know what to use. And when we moved the teacher education from the institutes to the universities, we more emphasize to the evidence-based, research evidence-based practices. For example, as you know that when the teachers are doing or studying the master degree, they also need to write the master thesis and study the research methods. And that gives for the teachers the knowledge and abilities to read scientific articles and follow the current discussion and research about the education, that they can develop their professionality. And then the focus on the content knowledge and pedagogical content knowledge. Shortly, I can say that it means that it's totally different to teach math and Finnish language or Portuguese. That's why you need a different pedagogical content knowledge based on that subject, what you are going to teach. It's meaning that you need to have different kind of pedagogical training based on the discipline what the teachers are studying and going to teach in the school. And also, when we are talking about the K-12 education, it's totally different to teach children who is, or educate the child who is 3 years old than teenagers or those who are studying at the high school. They are totally different challenges. Focus on deliberate practice. That is also the one important strengthness in Finnish education system. As I mentioned, we have the teacher training at the universities, and the teacher training is basically done in the Faculty of Education. And all those universities where we are training the teachers, they are multidisciplinary universities. And under the Faculty of Education where we are training the teachers, we are having the teacher training school, which means that the teacher students are practicing. They are doing four practice periods during their studies. 3 out of 4 of those practicing periods, they are doing them at the teacher training schools. And the administration and the management of those schools are done in the universities, at the Faculty of Education. And that they have a close communication. The teachers who at the university teaching, I don't like that word, but theory, how to teach. And also the connection is very close with those teachers who are teaching at the teacher training school, really doing the real work with the students. It means that the teacher students can practice what they have learned in the teacher training schools. And it means that we are not just saying that you need to do the teaching practice. We are also mentoring the students, going with as such. It's meaning that those teachers who are working at the teacher training schools, they have 2 roles. They are the teachers for the students, the pupils, and they are also teacher trainers who are mentoring the student teachers. And then also those professors, lecturers, and so on who are working at the university, at the Faculty of Education. they are also mentoring the students when they are doing their teaching practice. They are not alone, the students, I mean. And the last but not least, ethical professionalism. The career of the teacher is very popular in Finland. It meaning it's very popular in Finland. The most popular careers in Finland are lawyer, medical doctor, teacher, and nurse. We are very lucky. And teachers in Finland, they are respected professionals. And you can understand that it helps the teachers to do their work, because the community surround the school, they respect their work. And that's why it's very important when you are training or educating the teacher professionals, you also taking care of the ethical issues. The teachers are teaching cognitive skills and knowledge for the students, but also they take care the whole, take care, maybe not exactly take care, but they support the student personal development. And also the schools give and support the local civil society. Teachers' work is really multi-dimensional. They have a lot of responsibilities. And in the past, in the history, when we had the small schools in the villages in all over the Finland, nowadays we have just, saved the resources and combined so that we have closed very small schools and in rural areas and tried to put them together in the bigger schools. In those days, 1920, 1930, 40, 50, and so on, when we had the school in the small village, in that time we had also the more students in those areas. The teacher were the promoter of the whole village. He or she usually lived at the school with his or her family and ran the whole village, organizing the activities and, for example, the money collection for those who are suffering and organizing the trips to the capital of Helsinki and planting the plants and growing the potatoes and so on, running the whole village as such. That's why we still think about that teachers have the important role in the society. They are the role models as such. And when the new teachers are graduating and start their first job at the schools, they usually feel it very hard because the parents and the society is following and assessing, evaluating how they are behaving also during their free time. It's the challenge in some small places in Finland, and even the big places too. And for the end, I have here written the example of the composition of teacher pedagogical studies in teacher education curricula. We can divide the teacher education curricula in 3 parts. One part is educational theory, child development and those skill development and so that kind of things. And 1/3 is subject-specific pedagogy, content pedagogy of the subject, what they are going to teach in the future. And 1/3 is mentored teaching practice, mostly in the teacher training schools, where they combine their knowledge, what they have got during their teacher studies, educational theory and subject teaching pedagogy. Also, we are thinking that it's very important to support the development of professional identity. We do it during the teacher training studies alongside from the first semester up to the last semester. The master degree studies for teacher education in Finland, it lasts 5 years, basically. 3 years for the BA, and top of that, 2 years for the master studies. And teaching practice and also the professional identity development runs alongside during all those 5 years. We are promoting and modeling also at the university studies the student-centered approach. As I mentioned before, important role when we are having the teacher education at the universities, we are also having and teaching the students research evidence-based teaching practice. Subject or content-specific pedagogy. And what is the bigger and it getting bigger and bigger challenge also in Finland and all over the world, because also the Finnish education system based on the philosophy and idea of inclusion, education for all, the diversity in the classrooms is huge. And the teachers in all over the world and also in Finland, they are lacking the knowledge to teach the children, for example, with the special needs, or the children who are coming from the different language background, cultural background, and so on. Also, the idea during the teacher education is give the tools and the knowledge for the teacher students how to support students' well-being and motivation. All students are not motivated, we know it, and they can even lose their motivation during the school years. The teachers have to have knowledge and skills, at least to try rise up the student intrinsic motivation. Of course, the motivation, if you have lost it, usually when the child are going to grade 1, they are very, very motivated. They are very keen to learn new. But I don't know what we are doing in the school. We just push that motivation down somehow. Of course, it's the losing the motivation it's not only the reason of the teachers, it also depends the general development of the child. And then the last point is that we are having that mentored teaching practice, and all kind of teachers in Finland, they are doing 4 teaching practice periods. And 3 of them are done at the teacher training school and 1 at the partner school. It means that they can select, the students can select by their own purposes and interest the place where they can practice. They like to practice. Of course, the university need to accept that place. Okay, shortly that one. What I like to tell, it's very, very shortly, and we didn't went very deeply, but let's see what you think, maybe later.